We are ready to rock. Okay.
Cool.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Thrive and Survive Research Hub. I'm here with my co-host, Tineiwo, and a very special guest, Mr. Brandon Yang. How are you doing, Brand?
I'm good, and yourself?
Very good.
Good. It's good. Hey, everyone.
See how you feel.
Welcome, Brad. I'm good. I'm excited. Ready to obviously pick on Brad's golden nuggets and looking forward to another great session.
Yeah, so I was saying to Brad just before we jumped on, he's such a good listener that it's actually refreshing to have him in the driver's seat when it comes to speaking. And I think a good place for us to start the pod off is just to say, so Brad, what do you do on a day-to-day? Let's talk about your company, HoneyWhale. What does HoneyWhale do, and what's your role at HoneyWhale?
Okay, great. So just want to give a thanks again for giving me this opportunity to be on this podcast. It really is great to link up with you guys. And I'm very excited to talk a little bit more about my story and be the speaker for a change. So just to talk about the business that we run, it's called HoneyWhale. We are digital growth specialists, and that's what we originally wanted us to be. But in the beginning, as businesses start off, they're very all over the place, right? So we've been in the digital industry for about just under 9 years now. And in these 9 years, we've had the absolute privilege to meet some international and some local experts that helped us gather the experience and knowledge that we have today, right? When we first started out in this industry, we did pretty much everything, right? We wanted to get our hands involved in anything that could be an influence in helping a business get online, right? So that was photography, videography, graphic design, brand design, app development, web development, marketing. We tried and did everything, right? But there's a problem with that, and it's that whole analogy of like you spreading yourself too thin, or you're putting your eggs in too many baskets.
Yeah.
Right. So about 4 to 5 years ago, my partner and I decided to niche down. So by the way, HoneyWhale is founded by two partners. My business partner, his name is Alistair, and myself. Right. So about 4.5 or almost 5 years now, Alistair kind of had a conversation with me. He was like, we need a niche down, right? We're spreading ourselves way too thin. We're offering way too many services, and it's actually causing us to deliver subpar quality.
Yeah, good at
we
everything,
have a standard at
great at
HoneyWhale.
nothing. That's
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was the main drawing point. But the reason why we even had this conversation was because we actually picked out a gap in the digital industry, something that a lot of people weren't leveraging to its full potential. And a lot of people have heard of this term, which is one of the main services that we offer, and it's search engine optimization, right? And so because we used to do everything, we also did SEO, but on a very basic general level, right? At that point in time, I had done a couple seminars and online training courses where I would actually meet with a whole bunch of people and teach them this skill because there was such a gap in South Africa, especially, right? And so we actually had a client approach us about 4.5, 5 years ago, and they were a brand or business in Germany, and they had one problem, and that problem was they can't run any paid advertising online, right? They couldn't run any Google ads, they couldn't run any Meta ads, specifically because they sold supplements, right? They're a brand called Beyond Nutrition.
Yes.
And if any of our listeners are familiar with paid advertising, they would know that things like supplements or nutrition or diet or anything medicinal or medical gets banned or disapproved very quickly on a platform like Google and Meta, right? And so big companies, big corporate companies, they can circumnavigate around these policies to kind of get their products into the market in the digital space. Sometimes it takes a lot of budget, sometimes it takes a lot of time. And the thing is, with SMEs globally and in South Africa, they just don't have time. they need revenue and they need
and
customers.
resources. They don't have the resources to do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so their question to us was like, what can we do now? You know, we're in this predicament where we can't really scale or grow, and it's because we can't run any advertising. And so what I did was I took the strategy with my partner that we've been kind of giving out for free over time, and we built it into one service offering. And what we did was we said to Beyond Nutrition, okay, great. How about we try this strategy with you guys? We were quite transparent with it. And if you guys see results from it, then, you know, perhaps we can continue working together, right? So what happened then was we executed that strategy in a 6-month period. And in 180 days, we managed to get them to the top of Google, rank 1 for the keyword supplement in Germany.
Wow.
And that was a pivotal point for us.
Yes.
Because we thought everyone has the stigma around, and I'm going to talk about 2 stigmas, but everyone has the stigma around organic marketing or SEO, where it's like, it's going to take you a year, it's going to take you 2 years, it's going to take you 3 years just to get to that spot. And then we got there in less than 180 days in an established economy.
Yeah.
So we were like, what if we brought this strategy to an emerging market like South Africa?
Yeah.
And so when we brought it to South Africa, and this was before the pandemic, we realized that we could get businesses and brands to the top of Google in less than 90 days. Right? Some of the people that are listening might be wondering, and it's usually it's what everyone wonders, which is, what is the worth of that? You know, what is the worth of ranking at the top of Google?
Well, if you're not,
And this is
not
where
on the front page of Google, you don't exist as a first point, right?
Yeah.
100%. That's actually an ongoing joke that I make with my team and some of the people that we meet, which is, you know, the best place to hide a dead body is on page 2 of Google. Yeah, because
Exactly.
whoever goes there, right?
Oh, well, what kind of
And
madman does
I'll
that?
start.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, you must be desperate if you go to
Literally.
page 2 of Google.
100%.
literally.
Yeah.
That's a Hail Mary.
Exactly.
Yeah, carry on.
So what I typically do is I ask people this question, which is, you know, and I'll ask it to you guys. How often do you Google something and you skip past the first few ad results and you click the first organic result?
Yeah, almost every time. Because you know the top ones are all paid, promoted. You know, it's not actually
Exactly.
popular items.
100%. 100%.
Exactly. And so what if I told you that in the past 2 years, I've asked the same question to about 123, 124 people, and 116 of them gave me that exact same answer.
I believe it.
You know, and this is where I'd speak about the stigma of paid advertising or growth in the digital space, which is this stigma goes on a global scale. Merchants and marketers alike are fully under the impression that they need to run paid advertising campaigns with exorbitant budgets to generate a relative return, right? But if any of our listeners or you guys have any knowledge or experience in this, you know that paid advertising isn't relative, right?
Yeah.
You could spend $2,000 this month and make $4,000, but then next month you spend $4,000, you're not guaranteed to make 8,000.
Yeah. 100%.
And that's the problem. But all businesses have the same bottom line, right? I need to increase my customers to increase my revenue.
Yeah.
But when you throw in paid advertising into this loop, you almost create a negative perpetual cycle where I need more customers, I need more revenue, I need more budget to pay for more customers and then more revenue.
Yes.
Right. But my paid advertising budget won't be relative to what I'm bringing back.
100%.
Sometimes you could have an exorbitant, extremely high ROI, and other times you could have very low ROIs, and it's your job to figure out why.
Yeah.
It's too inconsistent, and it actually creates a lot of anxiety. Just recently, I met with these 2 founders of another agency, which I won't name just because, you know, to save their privacy, but they only focus on paid advertising. right? And I was talking to them, just having a conversation like we are today, and they told me how much they hate it because running paid advertising campaigns for all these different various clients, right, is so stressful because they always have to get ad copy approved. They have to test audiences. They have to do this and that. And sometimes ROI, they do the same strategy, but it's just not working anymore. And it stresses them out. But also, they're a month-to-month business. Their service is month to month, right? And that puts them in a position where they have very little security for their business. So
100%.
as business owners, they're constantly in a state of worry.
Yeah.
If I lose 2 clients this month,
Where's
our
the cash?
revenue drops from here to here, and our
Exactly.
cash flow is diminished, right?
Yeah.
Our profit level drops, and so we might not be growing effectively as a business anymore. And that was the same position that we were in,
Yeah.
right? But when we came across this service, or not came across, when we built this strategy and this service, we created security for our business where we could actually lock in projects in the 6 to 12-month period, some even going for 24 months, right? And this gives us not only an opportunity to build a stronger relationship with this client because we're in it for the long haul.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
But at the same time, exactly. But at the same time, we've also got time to grow with them instead of going through, some businesses are seasonal.
Yeah.
Some businesses only experience that growth in winter or in summer.
And also,
But when we're
I
with
just
them
want
for
to
the
add,
entire year,
you have a
yes.
sustainable, you have a sustainable approach. You're not focused on short-term results that are maybe one-off because your agreement is longer. So, like if you have a really
Exactly.
short-term approach, you just have this immediate effect and then you out. And you don't care
Yes.
the consequences because sometimes people can get a short-term gain, but once that short-term gain is gone, they're left off in a worse position than before.
Exactly.
I just wanted to jump in because you have a lot of experience in the e-commerce space, and that's something that you are heavily involved in.
Yeah.
I'm curious if what Brad is saying here resonates with you in any way in terms of the things you've seen.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, I mean, I think Brad summarized it quite well, but the reality is that, the big corporates want to focus on the core competencies. And as the world changes and becomes more dynamic, they want to completely focus on creating operational efficiencies within their core business. The reality is that e-commerce is definitely, a growth channel, a strategic growth channel for everybody. But the reality is that if you utilize your current skill set to try and master e-commerce, then you lose touch of operational competencies that you need to kind of optimize.
Right.
So what Brandon's business is doing is very different because it's not a consultancy, and I think when it comes to e-commerce, the consultancy firms might find it hard to get in purely because of the fact that it's not a one-off job. And the reality also is that when you're working with the companies who are trying to grow the e-commerce platforms, you almost get to learn their business and at a certain point become part of the business and therefore require a rolling contract to obviously continue executing at the rate that you are. And the most interesting thing about it, like Brandon was saying, is that it's continuous journey of test and learns.
Yeah.
And the refining of the test and learns and then picking the best. But it's also a double-edged sword because your test and learns get to a point where they expire and you need to start again.
Yeah.
So companies, employees don't have that time. And they're simply looking
100%.
for partners who can help them accelerate their digital growth without them having to overcommit themselves internally.
Yeah.
Trust. And I think trust is another big thing there.
Yeah.
I don't think we'll ever go to consultancies because
exactly
they service way too many people. And your trade secrets are most likely to be used elsewhere in the long run too. So but very interesting story there, Brandon. And I'm so keen to hear more. I mean, on this episode, I might be mute. I'm learning so much, so do mind me hear me speak less than normal.
That's what we're here for. But you know what? I just want to say, I love that point you made about the difference between what Brad's doing and consulting companies. Because when I listen to Brad, you are not playing armchair expert, where you're sitting on the side and saying to your client, you needed to do this, and this, and then you leave it to them to do it. You are the one who's rolling up your sleeves and implementing the strategy that you've suggested and taking responsibility for delivering those results, which is so, it speaks to the nature of the relationship that you have with your client. Why it's so much more than just a business relationship, you know. It really is. And I've heard you speak about it before, when you give your pitches, and you know, I don't want to call it a pitch because it's so authentic and it's so sincere that it doesn't sound like selling, which I think is the best kind of selling.
Yeah.
But you really, like, you're invested in your clients' growth and in their development as a business. And yeah, you know, I just wanted to bring us back a little bit to you as an individual, because that is something that fascinates me a lot in terms of getting into this journey as an entrepreneur. You know, you've been in this game for, you said, 8-9 years now, but you're only 26. You know, you're still a young man. So when you started this journey, you know, did you always want to be an entrepreneur, or was it something that you found yourself pushed into because the more conventional routes were either closed to you, or you just couldn't see yourself doing it?
That's a great question. So I think probably the best way for me to talk about this is talk about how it all started, right?
Yeah.
And I mean, I actually met my business partner now in grade 9 of high school, right? You know, we all went to St. Benedict's, and he actually came from Redham in grade 5, and we kind of were aware of each other, but just never interacted, right? Until grade 9, when we just started linking up and started having conversations. And one thing that he had was he had this ambition and grit for making money, right?
Yeah.
He had a real passion about it. And me, I had the kind of technical knowledge to kind of put a strategy together with him, and we could actually build something.
Where did you
So
get that
our
technical
first,
knowledge? Let's start with that.
well, I grew up with you know a brother, an older brother that's about 6 years older than me, and an
Yes.
older sister, and I have a lot of cousins that are older than me. So just growing up, we were surrounded by a lot of technology, gaming consoles, computers. We were learning how to use these devices just from the beginning on a basic level, and then over time, as experience, works, you just become more and more knowledgeable and more adept at it.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew exactly like how to go about learning how to build a website, right? How to go about learning how to post content, right? And so in grade 9, Alistair, he had this idea of starting a blogging platform, right? This blogging platform that allowed students across South Africa to kind of write about their schooling experience,
Right.
what they're going through, the complaints that they have, and a lot of the time you got rubbish that was being put on there because it was written by kids for kids, right?
Yes.
But at the same time, the platform had value
Yeah, of course.
because
Yeah.
it gave a space for people to speak about how they feel.
Yes.
And it actually started to grow. Like we were getting some more consistent writers, people requesting to be a part of the platform. And then we had to shut it down because we weren't making any money from it and we didn't know how to monetize it, right? We can't charge students a fee to write on our platform, and we didn't know how to leverage like Google AdSense, for example.
Sure.
Right. So, if you were to ask me that same question now, how do we monetize that? That's a whole different story.
Yeah, of course.
But the version of ourselves back then didn't know how to do any of that. So I had to close that down. But that was our first taste of doing something.
Creating.
And so, yes, exactly. So we were like, if it's this straightforward to kind of start something, then why not just carry on, right?
Mm.
So going into grade 10, we had another third-party partner, which I won't name, but we started up another kind of business, right? A venture. And this venture was selling hosted Minecraft server space.
Wow.
So I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with Minecraft or how to play it, right? But it's basically this game that you can build anything.
Yeah.
It's like a
You're like
sandbox game.
playing God with blocks.
Exactly. Or you can just survive. You can just try and survive.
Yeah.
And it's quite an interesting concept for a game. It's blown up over the past couple of years. But when it was first out there, you actually couldn't start your own server by yourself. Like Minecraft lets you now pay for a server, you can invite your friends and you guys all play on a server. But back then, if you wanted to play with your friends, you needed to connect Minecraft to a third-party server. You needed to take up some of that server space to host your world and to connect it through a couple drivers and stuff, and then you can post it online, and then people can start
You
coming
really
in, right?
had to want to play Minecraft. Like you really had to want to.
100, 100%. And so that was the gap that we saw in it. So what we thought was, why don't we offer a service where we rent out server space and we help people set up their Minecraft servers, right? And it was going well at some point, but then the third part, was he kind of flaked out on us, and he was the one that kind of had access to the server resources.
Yeah.
So we had to close that down at that point in time. Yes, yeah. And this was going into grade 10 and 11. And then Alistair and I decided to just focus on our studies, right? I foolishly, but I think,
Worked
life
out
has its
right
ways, but I foolishly I got a girlfriend that didn't exactly, do me justice at that point in time, and spun down a whole
We've
different
all been
rabbit
there.
hole. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so matric for me was not the greatest, but coming out of matric, Alistair and I split ways. He went to Cape Town, he studied at UCT. I studied at well, not a company, but a tertiary institution called Pearson,
Yes.
right?
Yep.
And about a year in, right, Alistair and I connected again, and he was telling me about this whole thing that he is doing, and it just so happened to be that I was trying to do the same thing, right? I was trying to start something where I could build websites for people, where we could do a little bit of their marketing and things like that. And then he was doing the same thing. So we thought, why not merge the two businesses? Our first merger.
Mergers and acquisitions at 19.
Literally.
And so his business, what he named it at the time before it was even fully fledged, mine as well, his was Vision Creative and mine was Empire Touch, right?
Nice.
Looking back at it, it was like a little bit of a cringy, corny way that we named our businesses.
Naming businesses is so hard, dude. You're like,
it is.
It's like naming a child, but you don't have the luxury of using your own name. What are you, Brad Incorporate? I mean, come on, dude. You got to use those online generators. Online generators.
Exactly. So we were like, we can't have such a cringe name. Like we sound like every other creative agency, right? So we were like, why don't we come up with a name that sticks, that doesn't tie itself to anything, so that it can be diverse, but also can be a little bit playful.
Yes.
And so that is when HoneyWhale was born.
Nailed it. Such a good name. Such a good name.
So
honestly,
we like to conquer the digital seas, but we work hard for our honey. And that's the concept.
And that's
like
so
honeybees.
The digital seas, but we work hard for our honey. I'm not laughing at that because it's ridiculous, but it is so clever and like it's hilarious. It's genius. Genius. Well done.
Thank you.
Well
T,
done.
you were gonna say something there?
Yeah.
I was just saying I love the name. I think business as well, like the name that you choose is almost like in my opinion, pivotal to success, right? Because I just think it needs to make sense. A stupid name with a great business idea makes bad business. That's just the reality of it. I often see like, young entrepreneurs start businesses that are named after the surname, or
Yeah.
something crazy like that, or registering a company that's like, first and second name. It's so, I mean,
Lazy.
you lose the plot, right? And
Yeah.
I think it definitely decreases how serious people take you in the business world as well. So yeah, I think that's definitely
No.
visionary of you guys, especially at such a young age, and to come up with such a creative name as well is not an easy task. So kudos to you guys.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, we got a designer over in Eastern Europe to kind of build out the logo for us. Um, and they did a great job at doing that. So one of the first obstacles that I had to face was around grade 11, grade 12, my father had his first stroke,
Mm.
right? And this left us in a very dire situation from a financial point of view with my family,
Yeah.
where we didn't actually have our breadwinner anymore.
Yeah.
And so my mom, for a number of years, struggled to kind of keep everything going,
Yeah.
right? And I had to kind of push for this business that we're starting up. But when you first start a business, you aren't making money. It's not as sunflowers and sunshine as everyone thinks.
I mean, speak to that.
And
Like at that point, you were living off of canned tuna, and I think you said you were working out of a closet or something. Like, speak to that.
I'll tell you how
Yeah,
that works.
yeah,
I'll,
I'd
I'll tell
love
you
to
how
hear
that
this.
played out. So my oldest brother, he was also kind of getting into the entrepreneurial space.
Yeah,
He started a company with a couple of his partners, and they're doing well right now. They're over in the UK, but at that point in time, everyone was still doing it in their infancy, and I think
mm,
this was an extremely tough time because you couldn't tell what the future was going to hold.
yeah,
All you could do was commit every day to doing this one thing,
yeah.
right? At one point, Alistair said to me that I got to move to Cape Town. Actually, it was an ongoing conversation ever since we left high school. Was
Sure.
like, you got to come to Cape Town. You got to come to Cape Town. We got to do something in Cape Town. We got
Yeah,
to try and make this work in Cape Town. And then I just thought, like, screw it, let me just go and do that, right? I moved to Cape Town with my friend Andre. He joined, and we rented out a small apartment. Actually, honestly, it was too big for two people, even bigger for one person, right? And Andre had picked up a job, and I had, gone fully into this business, right? Trying to also study on the side. But my mom actually she couldn't pay for my school fees anymore, and I I I found this out too late because I was in Cape Town and I went to campus one day and they just didn't let me in anymore because they said that we were so behind, or so
wow.
our payments were in such arrears that they weren't going to allow me to continue the studies until we rectify that. And we couldn't because we were just in such a poor situation, right? So gone fully into the business, had to kind of figure out everything from the ground up: sales, the marketing, the actual service that we're offering,
Mm-hmm.
everything. But at that point in time, we had like no money. I
Mm.
moved to Cape Town with 1,000 cents behind my name.
Sure.
And
Sure.
oftentimes I found myself um, eating bread for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, you
Mm.
know, not really being able to afford to go out firstly, but also some some foods that you honestly take for
Take for
granted
granted.
now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Like peanut butter and bread
yeah,
and tea was like a staple.
yeah.
And for me to pick up chicken was a little bit of a luxury. And
Right.
so and so I actually ended up losing a lot of weight,
Yeah,
right? But still stayed committed to everything.
yeah.
Andre had to move out, and this is why I had to struggle like that. Andre had to move out because the job that he was working at cut him loose, and he went back to Joburg.
Mm.
So it was me in that apartment by myself, and it was just a bit of a rough patch, right? When
100%.
you're faced with your demons like that,
Yeah,
when you push to your
Sure.
edge,
You find
I
yourself.
think you find yourself,
Yeah.
right? The version of myself that came out of that situation versus the version of myself that went into that situation, two completely different people. And I sometimes even forget the way that I was back then, right? But that version of myself that went through that really learned a lot about survival,
Mm-hmm.
right? Ambition and passion, and the path, which we always talk about, right? The path, the journey, the hero's journey,
Yeah.
right? And so this was my Uncle Ben moment, coupled with my father's stroke, because
Uncle Ben moment.
he's had he's had a total of about 3 strokes now. And it did do a lot of damage to the family relationships and finances as a whole, just because a lot of people depended on my dad and him falling off his own business and us needing to take up more time to kind of take care of him and things like that. It was
Yeah.
a huge undertaking for me to just leave my family and do this. So
Mm.
oftentimes they would ask me, how are you even surviving? Like, are you okay? Is everything okay? And me going through that rough patch, I was like, I'm good.
Sure.
Yeah, because you had to be as
Don't worry
well.
about me.
You had to
Yeah.
be. There's so many
Exactly.
people depending on you. And you know, I just want to throw something in there. Like me and myself and T spoke about this the other day. The journey of an entrepreneur is so misunderstood in the sense that people don't get that when you're working for yourself, you actually harder on yourself than any boss would be, because you have to be, because the challenge is so
Yeah.
big, you know, so it's do or die, right? I mean, like you say, you succeed
If
and
you
you
don't show up, you don't exist, right?
exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, please carry on. I don't want to interrupt.
No, no problem. So what we did then was my lease came to an end, and I moved in with my partner Alistair. He
Mm,
was already staying with his girlfriend in a very tiny apartment, right?
yes.
Like suitable for a couple, but not suitable for a third wheeler coming into this space, into a couple's
And
space.
it's always hard to
I
stay
have
with
to,
couples.
100%. I'm a very easygoing guy, you know.
Yeah.
I'm also
Sure.
very low maintenance. I don't require much to stay satisfied. As long
Yeah.
as I can do a little bit of exercise and focus on myself, I believe that that's all I really need, right? And
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for them for allowing me to do that. And I'm sure if Alistair was here, he would say, well, that moment was pivotal, right?
Mm,
Because that was when we downsized costs on everything and worked out of one apartment, right? My room was our office. So by daytime, we would move the bed so that it could be an office. By nighttime, the bed goes down, the chairs go out, and it's a room.
yeah.
And that office was at the same time their closet. It was like a third room that had a wardrobe and things like that. So you could always go into it to get clothes and stuff.
Yeah.
I was like doing a hybrid, living out of a suitcase, living out of a couple shelves,
Yes.
and it was very tight, but it's heartfelt memories at this point in time.
Yeah.
We locked in one of our bigger clients, which is a brand called Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, Alex
Yeah. It's my
uses
wallet.
their wallets. They make leather products. And Alistair's father, his name is Ian. He actually runs a brand called Brando, and they brought us in to do Brando, and then they brought us in to do Jekyll and Hyde with Brando, right?
Mm,
So that was kind of our foot in the door. The business owner of Jekyll and Hyde, or the holding company, International Colors, he was very much interested in what we were doing, right? So he was actually our first investor who ended up becoming one of the directors on our board, right?
wow.
And he actually put up an initial investment, right, which was giving us office space, office supplies, allowing us to work on his business and try strategies and things like that you know he typically wouldn't just allow anyone to come into his business to do, right? And you know, both sides learned a lot during this time and grew, you know. But at one point, we thought it wasn't a great idea for us to have given him part of our business when this was all that he was contributing. He
Yeah.
wasn't contributing, you know, anything financially,
Yeah.
and he also wasn't contributing anything intellectually, right?
Yes.
He
Yeah.
couldn't be involved in our service offering because he didn't understand it the way that we did. He
Yeah.
had his own ideas, which was fine, and all respect to him. But we needed to go on our own path. So we made an agreement, we bought him out, and so we split and part ways and decided to walk our path, right? I'm going to fast forward to just before the pandemic when
Yeah.
we started locking in some of our clients that we still have to this day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this was brands like your Mountain Falls Mineral Water, brands like your Sofa Company, and brands like the only music shop or called Tom's,
So
which
at that point,
uh,
how long had the business been going? How many years?
about 4 years at this
Three,
point,
four
right?
years of consistent grinding. And that was when you started securing some of these top-notch
Cool.
clients.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes.
that's
So we started building up a
yeah.
reputation. The nature of business is that people, big business owners or business owners that have the money that you want to tap into, right? They don't typically lean towards this 19-year-old that's telling them that we're going
Don't
to take their
say.
business to a whole
You
different
don't
level.
say. There's not a lot of
Exactly. So,
19-year-olds like that.
Yeah.
So it's
but
understandable.
oftentimes we struggled to get them to take us seriously,
Yes,
right?
100%.
But you see, there's pros and cons to that because pro is we could prove to them that we weren't your average agency.
Yeah.
And con is we really had to work for it. You really had to earn that respect, right? I mean, when it came to sales, we were doing 100 cold calls, 100 cold emails a day.
Yeah.
We would do cold walk-ins. We would schedule days where we were like, okay, move all work aside so that we can go to businesses that we vet initially, and we go to them and we try and lock them in right there at their shop, right?
Yeah.
And we didn't understand sales, but we took all these courses from Jordan Belfort, Wolf of Wall Street,
Mm-hmm.
right? He had this system called the straight line persuasion system. We studied that like it was our Bible, and we went out and we tried to sell and sell. And in the beginning, you got nothing, right? But if anyone understands selling, it really is time that you learn about yourself and you learn what is the best selling structure for you. And for us, we realized it was problem solving on a human level, right? We empathize, we understand, we empathize, we strategize, and we execute.
Mm.
And so we were going at this day by day, and I'll tell you, there were some months and weeks that felt like years because we were going nowhere,
Yeah.
right? And when you're going nowhere, it's very easy to lose passion. It's very easy to lose ambition, very easy to lose motivation. And what we always say is motivation comes in fragments.
Yeah.
It's consistency that will take you to the end of the race, right? Showing up every day, putting in those hours. And that was what Alistair always said to me when we were feeling down, was like, just show up. The fact that you showed up today, it speaks volumes of what your potential could be, right? So we always looked to arrive, do the same thing every day, and we just showed up. And sometimes it was tough, sometimes it was good. We started locking in some bigger clients and things got a little easier, right? So this was around the time when we pulled in Beyond Nutrition.
Mm.
And then we locked in Mountain Falls, we got Sofa Company. We were getting these bigger name brands that could really trust us. When it came to Mountain Falls, this proved to us our human level sales strategy was we love water, right? We drink water. We believe water is the source of life. We watched this documentary with Zac Efron about water and tasting water, and it was really insightful. So we did our own water tasting session, and we picked out that Mountain Falls was the best water in terms of mineral content, in terms of taste.
It's amazing.
But their online experience was so terrible. So we called up the business owner, and we were like, we love your product. We're just wondering if we could help you improve your website. And he was like, sure thing. And the rest is history, right? We've been partners with them for about just under 5 years now. And we took them from, a 40, 50, 60,000 Rand per month online store business to now making over 600,000, just touching under 700,000 Rand a month.
Yes.
Tremendous.
And
Wow.
it's really from the bottom up type of thing, right? And we've done it for several businesses now, because what we figured out how to kind of make the strategy adaptable for any business.
Yes.
And I can always talk about that a little later, but yeah, that's pretty much, like, in the most high level overview, that's our story.
Yes.
We
Yes. It's a
started from the
beautiful.
bottom,
Yeah. Now we're here.
and we aren't, yeah, but we're not even, but here is, I'd say, still the bottom, right?
Yeah.
We have big ideas and big plans,
Yes.
and we have big goals. And so we're constantly showing up every day. It's our 8th going into 9th year showing up every day, basically,
Yes.
right? And if there's one thing that I can say for people who are listening that are trying to start something out for themselves, or not really confident or a little bit wary about it, is like, be prepared to eat dirt.
Mm.
Eat dirt, keep your head down. Don't care about what other people are thinking of you, because when we first started, I had friends and family telling me, what
Crazy.
you're doing is going to be, you're going to fail.
Yeah, of course.
Just get a job,
Yeah.
and just study and get a job, and just
Give
go
up.
and, like, yeah. And that was obviously heartbreaking for me at the time, but those very same people look back now and they're saying, wow, like, I wish I did something like that, or I wish I could have thought of something like that. And the nature of it is, were you willing to eat dirt? Were
Yeah.
you willing to struggle as hard as some people do out there, just to get something back, or just to build something greater than themselves? And if your answer to those questions are yes, then you have it in you.
Yeah.
But remember, having it in you is not just motivation. It's being able to show up every day, even when it's snowing, raining, storming, flooding, sun is shining,
Mm.
ups and downs. And I think this whole experience that we've had, being exposed to everything that we did, and just learning from all these different people, it taught you a lot of life values.
Oh,
And these life values, they take you to the end, right? Uh, just among the successful people that I've met, and we all know some of them here, they all focus on relationships
mm.
and transparency
Mm-hmm.
and communication and being honest and doing good work, doing good quality. And that is all values that you can apply in every other aspect of your life.
Bro, I love what you're saying. Everything
Amazing.
you're hitting me so hard in the chest. Yeah. But as I was listening to your story, I was thinking about principles that we talk about all the time. All three of us, we talk about it. 80/20. When you decided to niche your business down and focus on SEO, you identified this 20% that was delivering 80% of the return, and you focused on becoming an expert in that. Okay, that's one. The second thing is the growth cycle in life, where for the first couple of years, you're growing on a linear level. You're suffering. You're getting those foundational, you're getting that foundation in. And then you hit that breakthrough where you get exponential growth. And what I find with you is, and with most people, so what you did, which is different from most people, is most people give up before they hit that exponential growth. And that's why their dreams never become a reality. Where with you were willing to suffer through that initial linear growth phase to the point where your business now was, you're going above surviving, and now you're thriving. Not to use the cliche of our podcast name, but that is what it's actually about. Like,
Yes.
choosing to thrive is living by a higher standard and saying we're not just doing the bare minimum, which is working when we feel like it. Thriving is doing it on the days that you don't want to do it, and never, never, ever giving up. And then the third thing that I would add is, which you said about relationships. What makes you such an interesting person is that you are always looking to give in your relationships, whether it's on a personal level or a professional level. And I think it speaks to your success, because people who work with you know Brad is not trying to just extract the maximum amount of monetary value out of me as a client. Brad is actually trying, Brad and his team, obviously, it's not just you, but
Yes.
HoneyWhale is trying to grow me, and they have my best interest at heart. And when you feel that level of trust, and you can't fake it, by the way, because the nature of your relationship with your clients is that it's long-standing, right? So you can manipulate somebody in a one-off exchange, sure, but time will show what you're actually about. So for you to build that kind of trust and relationship, you have to really be sincere. And that's something that I love, you know. And as you're speaking now, I'm sure the audience will hear this, the sincerity in your voice with the things that you're saying. Tia, I'm sure this is something that you can agree with, and this resonates with you. What do you think about it?
No, 100%. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, we are social beings, right?
Mm.
And I think what you do for others, you do for yourself twice.
Yeah.
Yes.
Be it good or bad. So I think when people can pick that up, when people can identify what you're trying to do for them, they immediately trust you, and it paves way for them to build a long-lasting relationship with you. So yeah, I think it builds good mutuality and sets a solid foundation for, you know, a two-way relationship that benefits both. And I think when it gets to that point, you actually want to give as much as you can.
Yes.
And when both parties are giving as much as they both can, then you have both parties receiving as much as they can. And you almost are like receiving at your most optimal, and the receiving increases as everyone benefits too. So I think it's the perfect mix for a working relationship. And without that, you're almost just doing a transaction which could easily, you know, end tomorrow. And it goes back to what Brandon was saying. The core business is about becoming a partner, right? And working alongside you as an external expertise to grow your digital business. So yeah, it's very interesting, and like you guys can hear, I'm more quiet than usual. But yeah, absorbing a lot, making a lot of notes, and yeah, just like I said, storing golden nuggets, because we're all gonna need this type of advice as we all go on our entrepreneurial journeys as well.
Yeah. And you know, I think for today's episode, I actually think this is a very good place to end it, because as I was listening to Brad speak, I was thinking to myself, we need to make this a multi-part series where we break it down into chunks. So I think for today, we're going to wrap it up here. But I just want to say to the audience, I hope that you guys got as much benefit from this as I did. Selfishly, I feel very, very lucky to have heard this story.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Brad, I just want to say thank you so much for your honesty, your authenticity, and just sharing this wisdom, because that's what this is about, this podcast. It's sharing wisdom that people can use in their own lives. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Brad.
Thank you guys very much for just once again giving me the chance to tell my story on your platform. You know, it is very, very much appreciated being able to always link up with you guys firstly, but also to possibly inspire and push other people to take that leap of faith, to really jump into a space that seems like, you know, all cards are stacked against you, and the underdog has to kind of prove themselves. But let's be honest, you know, the underdog, they always show up on top because they've got more grit and more push than anyone else.
Yeah.
Well said.
So well said. So well said.
All right, everybody.
Amazing.
That's us for this episode, and we'll see you next time.
Adios.